Hello, hello. Are we live?
Seems to be.
How are you doing, Cobblepot?
I am doing well. I am enjoying the show so far.
So
I
am I. This
don't
has been an incredible game for CDH. Incredible day.
very much so. So I think that the hype is real indeed, and I think that this is going to be a really interesting game. I think they captured very well um, the difference that we're seeing at this table from what a lot of people expect from the metagame. So a lot of people generally use a lot of non-creature kind of abilities because those are the way that people accelerate quickly, and that's the way that interaction is generally demonstrated. So when all of the decks are creature-oriented decks, and all of the creature removal that is normally at a very minimal representation in the meta, it's going to be really interesting to see how this turns out, because people won't have a whole lot of creature removal, and they're going to have to be really sparing about where they use it. Still there, guys?
Yeah, I'm just joining in. I'm sorry I'm coming in a little bit late here, but I'm very excited to be a part of the finals here.
Yeah. We are. Looks like we've got, Comedian in first position. We got Sekira running Animar in second position. Rebel playing her TYMNA, TANA, Hulk list, and Hire with the mono green Selvala. So we've got Ian starting off on turn one. He's got his Taiga and a Utopia Sprawl and a Mana Crypt. What do you guys think about this opening?
This seems like a lot of mana to get started. This seems like it's a pretty nice opening for him.
Right. This is exactly what PAKO wants to be doing, because you want to get PAKO onto the table as fast as possible. It's got haste. It's going to start generating pressure as far as attack damage, but it's also going to be, generating card advantage as well. So This is exactly where Ian wants to be, and I think it's going to put people on their heels.
Yeah, definitely. And it's definitely very important to get those commanders down on the battlefield very quickly, too. Very important to get them down.
Right.
I think we're having some troubles with Dylan.
Yeah, I'm noticing that.
I know I'm actually having trouble getting into the game myself here.
I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties myself. Can you guys hear me? I'm still not sure about that.
Now we can hear you.
Yeah.
You can hear me now. Okay, I was talking about, I'm like the turn one play. I'm trying to make the moves, and you guys didn't hear anything I'm saying. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. Cobblepot, thank you for taking over.
Yeah, no problem. So Rebel took her turn. She got a Finhorn Elves into play. Hire opens up with the Jeweled Lotus, getting Selvala down turn one. That's a pretty good start.
Yeah, turn one Selvala. That's exactly where you want to be.
Exactly.
That seems like the ultimate opening for Hire here. The ultimate off of the Jeweled Lotus. That is very nice. All right, I finally got this up and running now, so I'm excited to be able to see Comedian's turn here then.
Right. Hire, it looks like Hire has another play.
Hire does. Oh, look at this. Following up. That looks like a natural.
I think it's a
Nature's Claim. That's what I meant to say.
Nature's Claim, yeah. Targeting. Do we have the target?
I'd imagine this would be
On the
Mana
Crypt,
Crypt, is my assumption, yeah. Considering that it makes the most amount of mana here.
And it makes sense, because that's going to set back Ian probably 2 turns from being able to, be able to get that PAKO out. So this is this is a way to convert non-creature removal into creature removal, basically. So rather than needing to have something to remove PAKO,
Yeah.
you set back the development.
Yeah, almost like being able to cast Remand in a mono green deck. I like that. So let's see what Ian is going to follow things up with here. So the roll for Crypt is... Well, it looks like our target was Utopia Sprawl, actually. Which makes sense as well, because you get to keep PAKO off of...
Blue mana.
Well, the blue mana, yeah. Off of... You get to keep them off Halden that way. But it looks like we have what looks to be like a Misty Rainforest.
Yep.
We get the blue mana anyway, which is definitely good for Ian here.
So probably presume this is going to be a tropical island.
Yes, that was a good call. And we'll see what this follow-up play is. With 4 mana here, we're definitely not getting the dog out.
Right.
So I won't break into the song yet, but...
But there is... I would say there's a good chance that we're going to see a little bit more ramp here, just so that he has the ability. So the PAKO list, compared to all of the lists, is the one that has the most stack interaction by far. So he's going to want to be able to hold up interaction to be able to, stop things that are going on around the table. So to be able to get PAKO out and still be able to interact, he's going to want to ramp as much as possible. So
yeah, but you can definitely get a whiff of some interaction here as Comedian just passes the turn right over.
Now, these lists were made prior to the banning of Hull Breacher, and we know that that Ian does have a Hull Breacher in his list, so that could be a telegraph of that, especially since he put the tropical island on top of the mana crypt.
Yeah,
that might be a subtle hint, but we'll have to see.
That's a very good point.
Carpet of Flowers from Siqueira, and a what is that?
Looks like it's a Phyrexian.
It's
the one that the creature.
Yeah, Phyrexian Revoker. I'm sorry, you're right.
That's what it is. Thank you, Revoker. That's the name of it. Oh boy, are there so many names for Magic cards out there. My imagination would be Selvala is the target here, or the named card.
That is going to make sense. Rebel will require creature activations to be able to do most of her win lines, other than the Malarelin and Opposition Agent. But there's a whole bunch of different sack effects. So I think, shutting off Selvala is absolutely the right call, just because having Selvala without Summoning Sickness is going to you don't need a whole lot. You don't need a whole lot of resources. You don't need a lot of extra reserves to be able to just turn nothing into a win.
Yeah, exactly. Hire could have a 1-mana 12/12 in hand and be able to turn that into a whole devastating situation. Right, exactly, yeah.
As Hire demonstrated in the other game.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. We'll see
so
Rebel play a land. Looks like it's a shock land, a Godless Shrine,
and a Leonin Relic Warder. It'll be interesting to see what the target of this Leonin Relic Warder is. The Leonin Relic, it's kind of swings in a couple of different directions because it is removal, but it's also a win con with any of the enchantment-oriented animation effects. So Animate Dead or Necromancy will allow you to get an infinite number of dice triggers, which is part of the win con apparatus for Hulk.
But it looks like for right now, it's just going to be taking the Carpet of Flowers over on the Animar side there as we pass the turn over to Hire.
Yep.
Hire gets a draw and plays a Boreal Druid here.
Right.
And
a Gaia's Cradle. This is a reasonable position to be in if you don't have a Pithing Needle on your Selvala.
That is also very true. Also very true. But that Cradle is going to do him very well to help catch back up. And it looks like we're getting an attack in here.
Yeah,
Is
it
that
looks like
over-
the attack was at Sikieta.
Oh, no, it looks like it was over at Rebel.
Was it?
Yeah, Rebel just took 2. I imagine that's
Okay.
what that was from. Ooh, end of turn Intuition from Ian here.
Okay. So it was a 3-mana blue instant, but
Not the interaction that maybe we were expecting, but this is very, very dangerous for the table here.
Right.
Intuition being famous for basically being a 1-card win condition. Ian can set up a lot of scenarios where whatever the one final piece that he may be missing to go off or get some sort of advantage in any kind of way, Intuition can set up scenarios where he's guaranteed that no matter what, he goes and gets here.
Right. And this list does play Underworld Breach and Lion's Eye Diamond, so I don't know if there's a critical mass here yet to threaten that as a win con or a line, but it's definitely something that he may be considering here.
We did mention Hull Breacher before still being in his list too, so there's a chance that we may be trying to find a way to get Hull Breacher or a Wheel together too, depending on what else may be in their hand as well. So a lot of options here. A lot of options. I'm excited to see the direction this is going in. And it looks like we have
Feeling 3 lands.
2 5-color lands and a Valk Island.
So, I mean, if you need land, then you need land. And
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes
there's
instant speed cultivate, instant speed cultivate and blue is what this is.
If any of these decks is dependent on needing to get lands into play every turn, PAKO is the one that's going to be the most sensitive to that, because it is the one that needs to. It's the only one that's racing to an expensive commander.
Right. So this will be good to get some guaranteed extra lands here, which we'll see come into play right away for Ian after getting the better of a Mana Crypt roll. We might see a Hasty Dog come into play here.
Mm-hmm.
It would make sense and it looks like that is what we're seeing.
Okay.
So PAKO's going to come in. PAKO is assumingly going to attack. I would imagine Rebel as well.
We're going to have a PAKO trigger. So we got a Cloud of Fairies from Sikieta. We got a land and a
Momentous Fall?
Momentous Fall, it looks like.
Look at that. So some all right stuff here. But that does make PAKO really big.
It does.
This is what I love about decks like PAKO, having a way in your command zone to get around almost stalled out boards so that you can just slam in with commander damage and just have an extra way to be very threatening.
Exactly. That Momentous Fall, if Ian winds up with extra mana, is a very handy eject button to be able to convert his PAKO that's currently a 6/6, I think, into a whole new hand for 4 mana at instant speed. So he definitely is taking the driver's seat for this game.
Yeah, definitely something else to keep an eye on here. So it looks like Ian is wrapping things up.
Yep, passing it to Siqueira. Yes.
We'll see what the follow-up is here. So it looks like
So it looked like he had exiled a Lion's Eye Diamond.
it did look like that, yeah.
Right. It's not clear because he also has a gamble exiled as well. It's not completely clear what it is that just happened there.
Yeah.
Because if he had exiled it to PAKO and then played it, it would have gone into play. But he put it into his hand, so
Yeah,
it's not clear to me.
Yeah, I'm not too clear on that either.
But anyway, on to Siqueira. He's got 3 lands in play now.
And a confluence to get that third mana there.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised to see TYMNA or ANIMAR. Yes.
Yeah. So this is good, getting ANIMAR in play. This is one step closer to where we need to be to go off here. So, all right.
A turn 2 ANIMAR is where you want to be if you're playing ANIMAR. So this is right on schedule.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, hello, Dylan.
Hey, there's Dylan.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where I can intervene. I can't watch the game, but what I wanted to tell you is what they missed was a SELVALA draw trigger from the PAKO entering. That's what's going on. That was what that LED miss was.
Now I understand.
There you go. Cam, would you be able to hop out of the link so that we would be able to get somebody else to hop in there so that we can stream it so that I can watch the game in real time?
That sounds good. All right, I just closed
Excellent.
that out.
Sweet. So we will get that set up going so we can talk more about how what's going on here, Cobblepot. Tell me. It seems like we've lost a little bit. Are we on Zavala's turn? It looks like.
It looks like we have Rebel now.
Okay, Rebel's up. Right.
Turn,
okay.
Playing a 3rd land. And playing a Survival of the Fittest, which is
definitely where she wants to be.
A fantastic card if you're playing hook lines.
Yeah, Survival of the Fittest is definitely going to allow all that glue to come together to make a win happen here at some point.
Right, very much. It also threatens an instant speed opposition agent if you've got a creature in hand, which the volume of creatures in this particular list are plenty. So it's always going to be live. So she's got
definitely.
Yeah.
We have the Findhorn Elves open, so we do have the ability to activate that Survival of the Fittest anytime at this point. We choose.
That's right. And it looks like Hire just played a land and passed. Not sure. We can't hear the players, so it's sometimes a little tricky to know what it is that they're up to. So there's some sort of deliberation that's taking place. Okay, so it is still Hire's turn. He did not pass. Tapping 2 green and a colorless with the Boreal. Now this is probably just going to be a creature. That absolutely makes sense. This is a Manglehorn, no doubt going to be destroying the Pithing Needle creature, the Phyrexian Revoker.
Definitely here. Definitely getting that Revoker. Will be very good for Hire to get that off the board, and then Selvala can really start Brostorming off here.
Yes, with access to... Selvala doesn't have any big creatures out yet, so going mana positive is kind of off the table at this point, but they do have access to Gaia's Cradle and plenty of creatures that are small. If they've got a Phyrexian Dreadnought, then we're off to the races.
True, or like a lupine prototype potentially here too can get you a lot of extra mana. I don't know, I'm just trying to...
good name drop. How do you know the names?
Hey,
of that
you
one?
know,
It's such a
I'm
specific. They're good. You're good.
I got Momentous Fall. I'm on my game.
You've done your homework. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rebel has intervened here. I'm not sure what that
Ooh,
spell
Oh
is.
boy,
I
that looks
believe
like
this
an abrupt
is-
decay.
It is. It is the alternate
It's the
art for
promo-
Abrupt Decay in
Yeah,
the
I think
old-
it's an F&M promo in the old border. A card that
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes when we're on spell table and the cameras need to be flipped, it reverses the cards, so you can't actually read what's on the cards. So sometimes it's tricky.
Yeah. The
And
front
that
of-
was headed at Selvala, it looks like. Is that correct? That abrupt decay?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So
Probably
Yeah.
a good choice.
that makes sense. The Manglehorn is still on the stack, it looks like, or at least its trigger is on the stack.
Looks like it might have hit that mana crypt on Ian's side, considering that just went into the graveyard.
Interesting. So looking
Instead
to
of
slow
the-
down another player instead of opening up the Selvala win if the Selvala is dead anyway. Makes sense.
Which was fair. I mean, Selvala technically does have a lot of other tools to be able to deal with pesky artifacts and enchantments that are in play. So if Hire has access to any one of those right now, he may not be as worried about that as what Ian might be doing, especially if Hire isn't really going to be able to activate Selvala until 2 turns from now, in theory.
Yeah, and when we know that the LED is in hand, we know that Comedian has that LED. So looking to stop off potential extra mana might be the plan here from Hire.
Okay, so attacking with PAKO.
I found out that the LED. Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to say we did find out that the LED got into hand because of a Selvala trigger that was missed.
Yeah.
And PAKO coming into play.
And he cast the LED and it came into the battlefield tapped because of the Manglehorn. So we got a Wandering Archaic that got exiled.
I didn't quite see those other cards.
Right.
And
But PAKO
Arcade
went up
is
by 2 more, so one of them was a non-creature card.
coming into play.
And yep, now we have Halden in play as well. So this is
The card advantage
Textbook.
will be beginning soon.
yes, this is textbook for what Comedian wants to be doing. And again, PAKO and Halden can only cast non-creature spells that have been exiled to PAKO's ability. So all 4 of these decks being highly creature oriented is going to affect the style of game that this takes on, because normally in the metagame the lion's share of cards is non-creatures. So it's not going to generate quite the amount of card advantage, but it will, especially for Rebel, I think, create a lot of disruption, just because her deck in particular has specific combo pieces that need to be assembled. So it has less resiliency to individual cards being exiled at random.
Yeah, Comedian has a little bit of a hard time here being, one, the only real blue player, even though Animar is playing blue. Animar is not playing a lot of counterspells, so not in the traditional blue sense. Comedian's the only blue player, so has to kind of moderate the table. And not only that, like you're saying, this deck is normally meant to prey upon the normal metagame that's full of non-creatures, which this particular pod is not.
Right.
So PAKO and Halton might be having a little bit of a harder time than normal in this pod. They got to go first. Comedian got to go first. That's always good. But a couple things stacked against Comedian.
But he's bullied a little bit here. I mean, we've seen Utopia Sprawl and the Mana Crypt both get put into the graveyard. I mean, rightfully so. I mean, PAKO can really come out and start to do a lot of damage, get a lot of advantage really quickly. But he's definitely had a bunch of interaction thrown his way as well.
Right. And most of the interaction that we see in all 3 of the lists is mainly interaction that is designed to protect their own decks rather than disrupt what's happening in other people's decks. So you're not going to stop creatures coming into play with a Swan Song or with a Fierce Guardianship or with most of the interaction that is being represented by the other players on the table.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that there is a need for the other players to want to rush to their win conditions, I think, because there's just going to be so few actual on the stack interaction, it seems like. Although Comedian did leave open a blue mana. So who knows?
So we got a Worldly Tutor from Siqueira. Now, if you're Siqueira, what do you search for here? What's the stacks piece that is going to slow down what is being represented on the table?
Man, what a tough question. That is hard. I unfortunately I don't know Animar as well as I should to answer this question. Cameron, you have been doing a little bit of studying. Where do you think?
My first thought is like Collector Oof. I mean, LED's already on the table. My other thing is maybe there's a piece of Graveyard Hate. I'm not sure what that piece of Graveyard Hate would be, but the cat.
It would stop with the survival lines.
Yeah, it would stop with survival, and the cat on Rebel side, makes me a little bit afraid of what she could potentially do with that as well. We know that that is a combo piece as well. So those are the two things that come to mind for me.
Okay.
That would be on a creature.
Now, alternatively, Siqueira could just try to go for it here and just put a win together as well with a bounce creature and something that winds up being free once Animar has counters on it.
I would put my money more on Animar looking to do that, yeah, but I'm not sure. I don't know if there's a card that we can't really see out of Comedian's Exiled pile that maybe he'd be able to use.
So that's the Mutate Octopus.
Yeah,
so we're just looking for card draw.
So that'll be nice, getting to mutate that onto either Animar here. Animar's kind of attractive because of the protection.
Okay, so we have an Elvish Mystic that's going to trigger Animar, which is going to reduce the colorless cost of all creature spells, attacking
including
with
that
Animar.
little guy that we just found to help us get some extra draw here, perhaps.
And flashing in the Sea Dasher Octopus as a mutation, which still triggers Animar.
Interesting choice to tutor here. You're tutoring for a card that only gets you, basically it's a Dark Confidant. Never really the cards that I like to be tutoring for, but when they're the ones that you need to get, they're going to be helpful. If we're expecting this to be a long game, it might be a perfect choice here.
Right. So Animar has protection from black and white. So for the metagame, that's very helpful when you got mostly TYMNA lists and hate bears that you're playing against, whatever. That is going to position you well to be able to continue to make damage. At this table, I mean there's Rebel.
Yeah, there is Rebel, but
yeah,
it does look like Rebel started her turn as well right here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing to note, it does look like Rebel is a little short on green mana. I only see 2 pips here, I think. I think that's a Savannah and a Fintorn Elves. So we only really have 2 Survival of the Fittest activations. Not sure if that's going to cause problems later or if we're not going to be using that much more.
We're going to have to see here.
Interesting to see what goes on here. Pretty low life total for Rebel.
Yeah.
She's got to be a little precarious as to, how she presents herself on board as a threat here. But as the only black deck, that does certainly put a target on your back.
It really does. But this isn't an ad nos deck, so what normally would be the case of your life total being a big part of your game plan, it's not necessarily the case for this particular architecture.
Yeah.
Seems like we're tanking on Rebel's turn here. If that's correct, I would imagine there's some math that she's doing to figure out if she can win or not right now. It does seem like she's in a situation that she may be able to do that, but I'm wondering if she's thinking about that untapped steam vents that Comedian put into play.
That could be
Right.
it. This could be like a birthing pod.
Birthing
There's
pod would be okay here, but I don't think it would win the game. I think we would need a 3-drop for that, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So Rebel is looking. I mean, the Hulk lines are all going to require some sort of a sack outlet, and the Malarelin plus opposition agent line is going to just require those 2 cards. Survival of the Fittest is going to support either one of those trajectories. It's just not clear, based because we don't know how many cards Rebel has in hand, and what those cards happen to be. There's a lot of decision tree pruning that she's probably doing right now.
Really not a lot of options, but it looks like she may have
Survival's
just
one of those
passed the turn.
Right.
It looks to me that Higher may have begun to untap some permanents here.
Yeah, it's not. It wasn't clear to me before that Sikiera had even passed his turn. I don't know if Rebel had untapped or not.
Maybe clearing up something on the table just to make sure that everyone understands what's going on. But
Okay,
it looks
so
like
here we
Rebel's
go.
playing a land here, so we're still on Rebel's turn.
Yes.
4th land for Rebel here.
Okay, tapping the Flinehorn Elves.
That a discarded Dryad Arbor to Survival of the Fittest, it looks like.
Seems true.
Dryad Arbor,
Yes.
a very versatile card in a deck like this, where you're turning something into something else, which is really what this deck's main goal is. Just, I want to turn something into something else in like 4 different ways, and that'll get me the game. Very good here when one of your lands can pitch to Survival of the Fittest.
Agreed.
Yeah, Survival definitely a card that rewards you for knowing your deck list here. So, see what Rebel goes and gets.
Right, we don't know. So the thing about Survival of the Fittest is that it can get you any creature that you want, but the things that you really need to be able to go off from this point is going to be an Animate Dead and a Necromancy, something like that, or a Pattern of Rebirth. And Survival isn't going to get you any of those things.
So it looks like we're getting a Ranger Captain of Eos.
Seems like.
So that's going to go find Rebel a 1-drop.
Right. So as far as 1-drops are concerned, either a Visceraseer or a Carrion Feeder is going to make sense because that's part of the combo apparatus. I could also see a case being made for something like a Sylvan Safekeeper just to protect the pieces that are on board from removal.
With that Badlands out, I would imagine one of those sack outlets may be what the choice is here, but that might have also just because Ranger Captain is a difficult to cast card and maybe things had to have been cast that way. Or tapped that way, rather.
Yeah, the thing about in this particular list, the Ranger Captain provides value in several ways. One is that it lets you go and get one of your 1-mana creatures that's part of the combo apparatus, and 2, it's a silence effect that doesn't require a creature or doesn't require a cast, so it can't be interacted with outside of things like a Pithing Needle. So this is a good spot for Rebel to be in.
Certainly.
And
Ranger Captain also does a good job of policing the table. It can be very difficult to go for a win when you know at any time you can just be silenced out of non-creature spells. You know you're not going to be able to finish, so why start? The pressure of it simply just being there can be tricky. And it looks like is that a crop rotation?
That looks an awful lot like a crop rotation.
I'm not sure what it's doing on the Survival of the Fittest. Maybe it's something else that I don't see a power and toughness there, so I don't think it's a creature.
Right. I'm also not sure where the mana came from.
I think it's chilling there. Just I don't know. Rebel's just showing off that she's got a crop rotation. I'm not sure. So it seems like Hire's untapping. Perhaps we've moved the turn. That Viscera Seer does look like it was the target for the Ranger Captain Avius, though. I see that in Rebel's hand. Not quite sure what that crop rotation is doing there, but it does look like we've gotten a sack outlet.
Yep. That looks like a natural order.
Yeah, over on Hire's turn, looks like we're natural ordering. What are we getting here? It doesn't look like we're ready for a greater hoof.
Right.
Not the card draw one either.
Very much so. There's a couple of lines that could take place here. So Hire's got to be thinking about the threats that are at the table.
We still need to get that Pithing Needle on a Stick over there, Phyrexian Revoker, off the field at some point, but there's a lot of other things going on too.
Right, like PAKO is still massive. Rebel is now in a very threatening position to be able to go off soon.
I would put Rebel at being able to win next turn. From what she's done this turn, it seems like she's ready to go next turn. So I would be looking for a way to perhaps disrupt Rebel here. But really, there's so many options.
So we got Ian pondering interaction. It looks like Hire is going to get to search something up. Now, against most decks, this would be in a position like this, it would be something like an oof, or maybe an Allosaurus Shepherd, or some way to posture to be able to protect the win once the mana's online. But given this particular board texture, it's a very interesting decision tree here.
Yeah, Hire is definitely not in the best position right now. I think if I were to say anything, Hire might be in the worst position right now. So I would be looking for a way to somehow claw back into this game. Kolga is a good start. That's something big.
That is a good one.
That can be very helpful for what Hire is trying to do in a bunch of different ways.
Right. So this is repeatable creature removal. So which creature does he fight?
He could be talking to Comedian right now, seeing what that interaction looks like, wondering if getting rid of the Ranger Captain of Eos would help Comedian in stopping Rebel. I would imagine there could be some politic talking going on right now about that. Or perhaps just the Phyrexian Revoker. Maybe Hire's hand is good enough to try to win next turn, hoping Rebel doesn't. But that sounds a little bit greedy to me. I'm not sure.
Got a Chain of Vapor coming from Comedian.
So is this Chain of Vapor in response to the Kolga trigger? Because I don't think I see a foughten creature yet. I would imagine perhaps that Kolga was coming at the PAKO there.
Yeah, it looks like PAKO has been terminated. But I think Comedian might have played the Chain of Vapor on his own PAKO to return it to hand instead of having it go back to the command zone.
It looks like he returned Halden, the blue one. The blue one is Halden, I think, right? Maybe.
PAKO's yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is.
It looks like Halden has been bounced to hand, so I imagine that was in response to Kolga targeting it, trying to fight it, trying to stop Comedian from getting further ahead in card advantage here. But yeah, looks like Ian's going to get there anyway.
Oh, and we just lost feed from Ian.
Nuts. Seems like an inopportune moment for that.
Right.
Some of the troubles of webcam tournaments here, but I'm sure we will get that up and running in no time once Ian reconnects here. Ian's about to untap. What do we think the goals? Imagine, close your eyes and think about it. You see what that new information is.
Yeah, this is this is a very interesting game. This is not your standard CEDH fare.
Certainly
So
not.
this is,
There's no Demir here. I haven't seen anyone cast an ad nauseum. I'm not really sure what to even do or say. I thought that was the meta. What's going on?
right.
There's not even that many dockside. So what is it? There's I guess 3 of these decks are playing dockside, but
Yes, they are.
I haven't seen them yet.
I feel like everyone's kind of in a spot where they're a little bit farther behind where they hoped they would be at this point, and they're still just trying to catch themselves back up.
Maybe, I don't know, except for Rebel. Rebel seems like she's in a good spot. I'm still curious as to what that crop rotation's doing over there. I think that's what that is, but it looks like we may be all hopping out of the spell table link and hopping back in.
Okay.
We'll just take a couple seconds here to solve these technical difficulties and get right back to some pretty intense CEDH.
Yep. We're waiting on Hire to re-enter, and it looks like there we go. Comedian now has their access to video. So once we get Hire's there, and we're good.
All right, we're back. We're getting some shuffles from Comedian here. I think that was from a fetch land, perhaps. See on that in a second.
We'll see what Ian is getting. Not sure what card that is that Hire is holding that has scrolling capability, but
So we see it looks like Comedian has drawn a card for turn.
replaying the Halden. I'm gonna guess that. Yep. Kieta is fine with it. 3 cards.
And I would imagine
Unclear
this
whether.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it's unclear whether Ian is moving to combat now and people are asking to hold and so they can perform some sort of interaction. But there
Seems
is
like that.
talking that's happening at the table.
Seems like this might be the politicking moment, trying to figure out where Comedian's going. I would imagine Ian's coming at Rebel. Rebel's the only one playing black cards, as we've said before, but looks like a Pyroblast is coming at that PAKO or Halden, I would imagine. And is that a Flusterstorm that we're seeing in response to the
Seems like.
Pyroblast?
Oh, yeah, that looks like it.
So the Halden is still on the stack, evidently.
So we're fighting over the Halden right now. This is what's going on.
Looks like it.
Now, I don't think Hire is going to have a counterspell.
Probably not. I would imagine that Halden will be entering. Looks like that's what's going on.
Yep. Then
That seems true.
looks like we're just trying to decipher out who all has blockers and what the blockers are.
We're getting to
Right.
the point in the game where the decisions, I think, are getting tricky. Right now, we're going to see everyone thinking probably a little bit extra hard because we know that the game is most likely coming to an end within the next turn cycle or 2, I would imagine. So these next few
Right.
decisions are really going to be important.
So we have an attack. We're seeing a Taiga. We're seeing a Deathrite Shaman, a Forest, and I didn't
Forest.
see what Hire revealed.
I did not see either. It looks like we saw them in the same order.
Okay. Is that the big dog?
Oh,
big
the crop rotation is exiled from Halden. That's what's going on. That's what it's there. That's why it's there.
Yes.
That makes obvious sense now. Of course, why didn't I understand that before? But
Well, we're making note of that in the chat.
were
So
they?
thank you.
Oh, thank you,
Thank you,
chat.
chat.
Very smart. You are all smarter than I. So it looks like a fetch here from Comedian. Are we casting any of these spells? It's hard to keep track of everything, all the spells that we have access to. I can't quite see under Hire's name there. Any of these spells look appealing? Cobblepot,
So
do you think any of these?
the majority of these spells can't be cast because a lot of them are creatures.
That's
So,
true. Yeah, it's very true.
The crop rotation is something that's live. The impact, I forget what it's called. The 4 mana sacrifice a creature and draw cards equal to its toughness.
Momentous
Great.
fall.
Momentous fall. Thank you.
Momentous fall.
Those are both, live. Whether either of them is something that Comedian wants to be playing at this moment is, another story.
Looks like we're getting a red-white land here, so
I would hope not.
it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but that does look like a red-white. Am I colorblind? Maybe I'm colorblind. Does that look like a red-white land?
Looks like it's red and green to me.
Yeah, me
It does.
too.
Okay, maybe I'm just colorblind or something.
So the crop rotation makes sense in a case when maybe Ian's got a couple more creatures and you can go and grab Cradle. But right now that he's just sitting on 2 creatures, it's not really providing him all that much advantage.
It looks like we have moved on over to Animar's turn here with an untap, but we're still waiting to see what the play is going to be. That Elvish Mystic is getting tapped. Looks here for
Generous Patron.
Interesting. What does this card do for Animar? This is adding some counters, I believe, correct?
It draws cards when you put counters on other people's things.
Interesting. So we're just looking at Animar's really just looking to grind, it seems, as much as possible.
Yeah, normally that's not what Animar is all about, but in this particular game...
I didn't think so. Yeah, I didn't think that was normally the plan, but it looks like maybe we've adapted to fit the pod. These decks can be, I don't know, have a little extra grind to them.
Yep. People are doing what they have to do.
Here's in play. So it'll still be nice for Animar to be able to keep up with a lot of that too.
It looks like counter goes onto the Manglehorn. Sikieta will get to draw from the Generous Patron. And we have another creature. I am not able to tell what that is.
Oh yeah, the
Not
glare is a little bit off on there.
Not sure what that one, but certainly a creature that's adding some counters to Animar.
Looks like it is an.
The chat is saying it's Toski.
Ah, Toski. Extra draw.
Okay.
Love to see it. We're really drawing a lot of cards in this Animar deck.
A lot of cards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it looks like Animar's going to be getting in.
I imagine going over
Now,
at
who are we swinging
Rebel,
at?
perhaps?
Probably Rebel, considering that Rebel wouldn't be able to block.
Right, Rebel only has white blockers available at the moment, so that would be a profitable way to go. Yep, and it looks like Rebel is the one who got hit.
Yep, just took another 6 right there.
And again, Rebel's not on any kind of Nas strategy, so her life total is getting really low, but she only needs 1 life to be able to win this game.
And something interesting is that Rebel did cast a Pyroblast earlier when she didn't really need to. I mean, it was helpful. I'm not saying that I was wrong, but it wasn't a game-winning combo on the line. And I thought that she might have been in a place that she was looking to win on this turn, but that might not be the case if she's getting rid of that Pyroblast.
Another card in hand, so it might be, depending on what that card is, it might be tough. it's a creature, it makes it a lot easier with survival in play, but
Yeah, this is a very unorthodox set of circumstances. So it's when people play chess, they're used to playing against certain board states, and things are very familiar. This particular board state is a very unfamiliar board for everybody.
Definitely.
So everyone's going to be thinking on their feet because this is not something that they're going to have a lot of former knowledge to draw from.
yeah, exactly. So it looks like Rebel's going to untap here.
Yeah.
Go to her turn.
So she has access to 2 green mana at this point. So that represents 2 activations for survival. She is pointing at her Ranger Captain of Eos. I don't know.
If this is the turn.
Right. If we see the sacrifice of that Ranger Captain, then we definitely know that something is
We may be looking at
on
our
its
winner.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the 2 green works. She's got 3 cards in hand, including the Vizier Seer that we know about. So that just might be all that she needs, depending on what she's able to get here.
Right. So she has not had a land drop, so she's not getting help from there. But most of the lines are fairly tight. Looks like Rebel might be asking Sikieta what mana he has access to.
It looks to me that that's 3 open mana. Is that correct? A breeding pool, maybe a mana confluence, and something else.
Yep.
I think that's a
And then
steam
only,
there.
and then only a
Is it
red green
event?
open from Edian because he's not playing Plateau. Of course.
Right. And PAKO hasn't exiled any counter spells, which is a very sad PAKO.
Yeah,
So-
and not where Paco wants to be.
A big Paco, but not getting a lot of card advantage here.
That's right.
So
Now, if Rebel doesn't win here, PAKO is already a 10-10, so we can anticipate PAKO being able to start one-shotting, Rebel if she's not able to be able to block. So there's some added pressure here for Rebel to put something together.
Animar is still going to be coming at Rebel too.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of onboard threats. I mean, that Hire has got a big giant Kolga over there as well that's looking to attack someone. So if Rebel doesn't win here, I would not be surprised if this game came down to a combat damage slugfest.
I mean, given the the decks that we're looking at, that is not a
Pretty
surprise.
much lines up, right? Some big giant
Yeah.
green creature decks all made the final somehow of this tournament. What a bizarre event.
I mean, it just goes to show that, the prevailing wisdom of what decks are quote unquote the best only goes so far.
I couldn't agree more. We know what's best on paper because we know Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation is 3, which is a small number, but there's so many other things that go into it.
Right. And we don't have we don't have Thassa's Oracle and Consult represented by anybody at the table here.
I know, yeah, incredible. So it's clearly not need to be banned. This is the proof. Thassa's Oracle is good enough to stay. Not even good enough to make the finals of a format. Not even
Yeah.
good.
No more need to talk about that. We can.
Now, I wonder if we are waiting on some connection issues or if Rebel is just really making sure that she's ready to go for it here.
I mean, this is one of those cases where she's going to be very much shields down if she goes for it because of the amount of resources she's representing. So she wants to make sure that she'll be able to do it because she probably won't get another chance. She certainly won't get another chance under the cover of Ranger Captain. So once you pop Ranger Captain, then you're committed. So
yeah, and Rebel may be
don't blame her.
Yeah, for sure. And Rebel may be in an interesting position where she maybe just be dead on combat damage by the time she untaps next turn. So she maybe have to go for it right now, even if it's not the smartest move to go for it right now. If
Right,
she
that's
won't
what I
make
was
it to her
saying.
yeah, if she doesn't make it to her unstepped step anyway, might as well.
Yeah, because the big monkey is only good as a blocker when it doesn't die, and PAKO is big enough now to just go right over the top of it. So it's possible that Big Monkey might head towards Rebel just to put additional pressure on if she has to pass the turn in this circumstance. She's got 3 cards, doing a lot of thinking. We got Hire putting his headphones off.
Looks like we may be taking a small water break, perhaps.
It's possible. So this is definitely an inflection point, I would think, for the game.
I would think so
the amount
too.
of thought that Rebel's putting in here is it should be putting people on edge, because is it now or is it next turn? And
I do have confirmation that Rebel is indeed in the tank. This is what's happening right now. She's counting every last number, doing all the math, making sure she's good to go. So we're just going to give her a second here. This is a lot of complicated stuff, a lot of cards that are in hands, a lot of cards that are being represented by other players. Want to make sure we get it right.
High stakes situation too here in the finals as well. So, don't want to
rush it. Nothing to rush here.
Yeah, exactly. No sin rushing. Certainly want to take your time here. Make sure that your math is correct.
And I mean, Rebel has worked very hard to get to this point, and it's she has talked about the emotional kind of toll that's taken, and you don't want to just let that go frivolously when you're in a position like this, when you have the opportunity to win.
Absolutely. It can be very stressful.
It's almost human nature to, start to get in that rush. Maybe it's not human nature. Maybe it's just my nature. But like my heart starts pounding really big. Like if I'm starting to present a win, like I start to get a little bit nervous. Like, oh my God, am I going to get there? So, there's and those kind of moments then, allow for more mistakes, because, there's usually something that, because I'm so worried about actually being able to go off, I'm preventing myself from, remembering some other effect that, someone might have in hand or on the board that could potentially mess up my whole time going off. So,
absolutely. And I've heard that we're all back at the table. We're ready to go. So I'd imagine we'll be seeing a play or a pass of the turn from Rebel soon enough.
Right.
I'm curious to see what her play will be.
As we've talked about, it's one of those things where she is very vulnerable if she doesn't go for it here, which is putting additional pressure. Because she probably, especially if Hire winds up attacking with the monkey, she will not be able to survive another rotation, especially if everyone is interpreting this long time in the tank as the choice of going this turn or next. So there's a lot riding on it. If she passes, so she's going to cast something. Okay. So either black or red mana coming in, or just thinking.
I wonder if that Viscera Steer is coming down. The suspense, it's killing me.
So just, looking at this, one would think that I'm wondering if she's got a combo piece orphaned in hand. That is the main thing that I think would be holding her up here, because she can play. She can sacrifice the Ranger Captain, silence the table, and she can play the Viscera Seer and the Academy Rector if she has Academy Rector. And it might be that she's 1 mana short and needs to search up the Academy Rector, because that would be a straight line to the win. So either she doesn't have the Rector in hand, or she's looking for something else. But she's gonna play something.
No, she's not. Oh my goodness. Will she? Won't she?
Wow, she doesn't know. Because if she had more life, another perfectly fine option would be to just pass and oh, what do we have here? Okay, that looks like a Tana.
Oh boy, is Tana okay? So we're just getting Tana out here. Are we just looking for a blocker right now? Is that what's
I'm
happening?
gonna guess that's what that's about.
Oh, it's never a position that we want to be in, but she must have counted the mana, counted what she had, and wasn't quite ready to go.
Right. And I mean, that's if that's what you got to do, then I mean that's a sensible play. If you know that you're not, if you know that otherwise you're not going to be able to get another rotation. She's probably looking for 1 more mana and is hoping that she'll be able to get access to 1 more mana on the next turn. So
we'll see if she'll be able to make it through the turn cycle, but it looks like we're heading back over to Higher now as he untaps, plays a land. And thinking about what we're going to do with that Kolga. Looks like that land, let's see, what is that? Can't quite tell. Is that maybe like a homeward path? Is that what that is? Or
might be. It's a little bit difficult. Yeah, it's a little grainy. So he's attacking with the monkey.
I'm sure that Kolga has got to be coming at Rebel.
She's gonna block with the survival of the. Oh, Kolga. Can Kolga?
Oh, on
destroy...
attack. It sure can. On attack, Kolga destroys enchantments.
I didn't realize that. I thought he only destroyed artifacts.
That does make things quite difficult for Rebel. And confirmation that is homeward path on Higher's board there. Looks like we're tapping 4 mana here, and Selvala is coming back in play.
Yeah, 5 mana to be able to recast.
So Higher's still going to have that Phyrexian Revoker to deal with, but that's for another day. We're getting Selvala out, and we're passing the turn over to Comedian.
Right. Had Rebel had more mana available, or more life available, I wouldn't have been surprised to see her just pass turn to be able to spend 1 mana to search up Opposition Agent and then flash Opposition Agent in, and then the next turn spend a mana to go and get Malarelin and lock the table down. But
that certainly could have been a good option.
Given the pressure on her life total here, it just isn't a feasible plan. So I think she made the right call in that case. And the loss of the survival is it's unfortunate.
It looks like we've got a Mystic Remora, Flusterstorm, a land, and probably some green creature from Higher off of that PAKO attack.
Of our first non-creatures for Ian to actually cast.
And they're not bad ones to get either. Flusterstorm is a good one to have, although maybe not the best interaction at this particular table. Higher's card is Carpet of Flowers. So that is a non-creature spell that Queenie could potentially cast that could get him some mana here.
We say that Comedian exiled his own Mystic Remora too?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, which is, I mean...
So a lot of value popping off on that one. If we get the Mystic and the Carpet of Flowers, that Flooded Strand as well.
Mm-hmm.
This could be a pivotal turn for PAKO and Halden here to begin to take
Right.
over the game.
5 mana. Is that an extra turn spell? It is an extra turn spell. That is
We are turning the corner aggressively. We have made a sharp
right.
turn.
So that is.
Oh,
I mean, even if this is just got a swan
it's
song.
met with the swan song. Met with the swan song. I know Ian does have that Flusterstorm, but I'm not sure is Storm's going to be high enough. It seems like Storm count's at 3 right now. Once we cast the Flusterstorm, correct?
I just don't know if Ian has the mana. I mean, technically we can crack
He's
LED. As it looks
He's
like
fetching right now. Fetching a flooded strand right now. Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
As he's looking to crack his LED as well.
Yeah, that's the other option.
You could do
Right.
it, and you can cast the cards from exile. LED's a lot better when you don't need to cast a card in your hand.
Yeah.
Right. That is one of the things that is a huge advantage of PAKO and Halden is accumulating all these cards that are in exile, and you can just sack your LED and still effectively have a hand. So it winds up becoming basically a Black Lotus. But for the time warp or temporal manipulation loop, you're going to need access to Seasons Past, and I wonder if Ian has that in hand, and that's why he might be reticent to discard that, because he wants to be able to create a loop.
That's a good point.
Could be. Now, are we waiting on a fetch here right now? I believe Ian put a fetch land into his graveyard, but okay. It looks like maybe Rebel is sacrificing that.
Yeah, Rebel sacrificing the Ranger Captain of Eos so that this way Ian is not going to be able to respond to this Swan Song that's on the stack.
Interesting. It looks like that LED was cracked in response as well, using
Right. It looks
one of
like
that 3 blue mana.
Yeah. So it looks like what happened was we had the Swan Song in response to the Time Walk, and we have a silence in response to the Swan Song, and then Ian sacrificed the LED in response to that.
Where we'll see that.
So, interesting. So if Ian can respond to the Ranger Captain of Eos here and still Flusterstorm that Swan Song, oof.
Oh, a Hull Breacher in play then.
That might change the dynamic of this a little bit.
They should ban that card.
So if I'm mistaken, the stack looks like an extra turn spell is at the bottom with the Swan Song on top of it. There's a Ranger Captain of Eos sacrifice ability on the stack on top of that. The LED has been cracked for 3 blue mana. One of it's been used, but I can't see the Flusterstorm. Maybe the Flusterstorm was already used, and it looks like the Hull Breacher is in play. Looks like that Swan Song's in the graveyard. So I'd imagine the Flusterstorm came at it?
I imagine the Flusterstorm was used.
Right, because Ian is at 2 blue mana floating, so it looks like he did commit that mana to casting the Flusterstorm.
It looks like he'll finally be able to go get a land off of this Flooded Strand.
Right.
And perhaps this extra turn spell is going to resolve? I mean, Ian doesn't have any cards in his hand, but
well, nobody
good.
else has any stack interaction.
Yeah.
So everyone else is essentially silenced now because of the Ranger Captain. So no one's going to be able to interact with that Time Walk in any way.
That's true. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So that Time Walk is resolving. Probably not a lot getting done after it, but we're going right back to our turn where that Ranger Captain will not be on.
Right. So, and it turned out that Seasons Past was not in hand for Ian, so this is not an infinite loop that we're going to see. But still, being able to reload and go again is definitely going to be good.
It's going to be good. Now this draw is going to be a big one. This is really going to determine if Ian wins or loses this game.
Right.
Worst comes to worst, Ian will Ian should at least be able to play one of the other exiled non-creatures. I think Mystic Remorse is still out there.
There
It
is a
is,
Hull
but it's
Breacher,
not great with
though.
Hull Breacher.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I almost forgot about Hull. See, the card gets banned, and then it's off my radar for a while. I don't think about it.
So does the target change here now? Rebel no longer has protection and is at 5 mana or 5 life. Does it make sense to start swinging PAKO at something other than Rebel? For instance, Sikiera,
I probably
who
would.
now has Sikiera become the new target because of the fact that they've got Hull Breacher in play and an Animar that is sitting at 6/6. That's a lot of potential there being represented by that Animar.
Looks like a crop rotation getting played from Comedian
Yes.
out of Rebel's deck here.
Yes.
Are we looking for Gaia's Cradle? Are we looking for what?
I mean, that's the thing that I would think.
But it seems like we got a lot
Unless-
of mana.
Right. Unless I don't know if Ian is playing Mystic Sanctuary.
Ooh, do we have 4 islands? I see 1, 2, 3. Is that a 4th island under there?
Yeah, there's 4. No,
There's
that is 3. You're right.
it's
Yeah.
3. It looks like. Oh, but that would be a good one to get for sure.
There is a Mystic
Didn't-
Sanctuary.
Okay, so that must be a 4th island there. It's unfortunate we can't draw that card right now because of the Hull Breacher. I don't know if there is a
Right.
way that Ian would be able to draw the card, but even if he were. Although, is this in upkeep? Is this before the next turn has officially begun? Is that where we're at? It seems like the best spot to do this.
This is a good point.
I would assume that's where we are right now in the upkeep.
I think that the idea here is he can swing with PAKO and then exile it off the top.
Oh, sure,
and then be able to
sure,
cast
sure.
it for another turn.
That works. That absolutely works.
I guess there's a couple ways.
I totally forget that he can cast it out of his own library too. He has drawn for turn, so we are in his main phase right now.
But the question still remains of who's going to be the receiver of this PAKO attack. Because PAKO is a 14/14, which I think represents more damage than the entirety of. But see, the thing about Sikiera is that he's got Toski in play.
That's
Who
an
is
indestructible
indestructible.
blocker. Yeah. Do you switch gears? Do you go after higher? Do you start saying, well, I can 2-shot higher, but I'm not going to block with Selvala?
Right.
Decide Rebel can't win anymore? Maybe decide that?
Right. This is tough. Maybe another thing to consider is, so suppose he does swing, hit higher, take an extra turn, swing, hit higher again, and put higher out of the game, presuming he doesn't block with the Selvala. Does that help Comedian overcome Sikiera's board state? I don't think it does.
I don't think it does either. Yeah, I don't think it does either. But what else do? You got to do something. You got to make a move somewhere.
So my thinking here is, you want
that finger up from higher. Right? That must be higher, trying to try to convince someone not to attack him. I think.
Right. So PAKO's value decreases as people leave the table. So to keep quote unquote drawing 4 cards every turn, you want 4 players at the table. You don't want to, especially with a Hull Breacher, you don't want to be removing players for no other reason but to remove them, especially when they're not in a position to be able to win. So
it might almost be bad to remove them.
that's what I'm saying is that there is an incentive to leave the people at the table so that they can still provide card advantage. So it looks like he did swing at higher, and he blocked with his Selvala.
We got a land, it looked like. That extra turn spell from Comedian's own deck that I'm sure he's going to be casting.
Yep.
And we're going to do it all again. Now, yeah, now I wonder, we'll have to see if we're coming after higher or if we switch attacks again.
Right. If he swings at higher, I almost expect a swing at Rebel in this case.
And so that's a gamble we're casting right now with one card in hand.
With one card in hand. Oh my goodness.
We got an extra turn after this, right? So Ian may be thinking, I got a 50-50 shot. I'm going to tutor for whatever I need, Season Pass or Nexus. I don't know, whatever the card is here that's going to help him pull ahead. But we got a 50-50 shot to make it happen. It's risky, but I like the play.
Right.
You got to play to your outs, and if this is how you win this game, do it. Go ahead.
Does he have enough to do an attempt at Underworld Breach?
Ooh, probably. That's probably a decent. I would imagine Underworld Breach is a pretty good search target right now, especially then you get to gamble again. And then you can take a couple extra turns. Yeah, it's got to be the Underworld Breach he's looking for.
Oh yeah, I mean there's a mana crypt in his graveyard too, you know, so there's a bunch of extra mana that he can get if that's where he decides to go.
Oh boy, this is intense. If we're putting this whole game on a 50-50 gamble for Underworld Breach, I love that. I really hope that's what's happening here. Oh man. Just Underworld Breach is just such a powerful card. The options that it gives you is just so insane. All right, so let's see here. We're shuffling up these two cards. I wonder how we're doing this. We rolling a die? What's happening?
Making it a coin flip is...
Oh boy, what is it?
Risky.
Oh, which one is it going to be? Which one? It's a 4. Oh, that doesn't look like an Underworld Breach. Is that what is that? It's a
Sylvan Library.
Sylvan Library. That's probably not what he tutored for. We might.
I'm gonna guess he didn't tutor for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is very exciting then.
This could be the game. If there's not interaction here, we could be looking at the game here. That Ranger Captain's been sacked.
Right. Nobody's been representing any. If anybody had interaction, they probably would have used it to stop the extra turn from coming.
I wonder if there's something that we're not thinking of. Is there anything else that he could be getting that's not Underworld Breach?
Seasons Past, possibly, but again,
Pass is an option.
He doesn't have the mana to cast Seasons Past and Time Walk, so
do other stuff.
I'm gonna get looks like an Underworld Breach.
There's 2 mana. That's 2 mana. That looks like
there it is.
Oh baby.
Holy cow.
Man, a 50-50 gamble for Underworld Breach in the finals.
Gamble with Underworld Breach is a 1 mana red demonic tutor.
Yeah.
So
right to hand, basically. Oh, and there's we have the LED.
Oh, the LED. How could
that gamble looks that LED gamble is probably going to find a brain freeze next, I would imagine.
This is looking very, very good.
This is incredible. I cannot believe. Actually, I can. It's Ian. This actually makes a lot of sense. This is a very comedian play, I feel like. But absolutely incredible. Underworld Breach is going to take this game. I don't know. Gamble is going to take this game.
That definitely took a lot of guts to do a gamble with a 50-50 and maybe not take a more conservative line.
Sometimes you got to do it. You're dead, right? You got to. Yeah, it's not where he wants to be, but it worked out.
And intuition happens to be very good also with Underworld Breach, just because
it certainly does.
It's 3 mana, search for 3 cards.
So are we getting some extra? I imagine this intuition is finding brain freeze 2 other cards.
That's probably true. I don't know what the storm count currently is.
We got Breach, LED, Gamble, Intuition. That sounds like 5 so far.
Okay, so Brain Freeze, a Lotus Petal, and a Autumn's Veil. Veil of Summer.
Veil of Summer? Some type of green protection spell. Yeah, and this may not be the end. There may still be someone who's looking to do some interaction here. I would find that hard to believe. I'd imagine the very next spell after Underworld Breach cast would have, to remove the Underworld Breach would have been cast then, but it looks like that Veil of Summer is getting cast now just in case, just to make sure.
Right.
An extra card off of that too. Gives you a little bit more information.
Now, he shouldn't draw a card from that because Hull Breacher is
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, Hull Breach, and I don't think any blue or black spells have been cast, and I think that's the condition of which to draw. Doesn't matter, you don't need it to. It's just a silence right now.
Yeah, he didn't draw anyway, so.
Looks like we're getting the thumbs up. I would imagine Ian is explaining what he's going to be doing with Underworld Breach, Brain Freeze. Oh, we're counting Storm. Okay, so we should be getting to the number 5 or 6, I think. Which is certainly enough for Brain Freeze to mill enough cards to cast Brain Freeze a second time, which is enough to cast it a third time, which is enough to keep on going. So it looks like we're maybe waiting for that Veil of Summer to resolve. And in case you're unfamiliar with this particular combo, you may be unfamiliar if you're new to CDH. What we're doing right now is with Underworld Breach out, we can sacrifice Lion's Eye Diamond to make 3 blue mana, exile some cards, and cast Brain Freeze, which has Storm. So it's going to mill us out 3 times 6, basically, since we've cast 6 spells. 3 times 6 is like 18 cards. So then out of that 18, you take 3 of them to recast your LED, and use the mana that the LED makes on the Brain Freeze to cast Brain Freeze again, milling yourself out again. And from here, Comedian can kind of win however he likes. He can mill out his entire deck and play anything that he wants. He can mill out, the Storm will get high enough that he'll be able to mill out his opponents and then just pass the turn and they can draw a card and die on their upkeep. He may cast a Wheel of Fortune after they've milled out their entire library and make them draw cards that they can't draw. But to me, this
the Hull Breacher in play.
With the Hull Breacher stops the Wheel of Fortune. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah, we don't want to do that, but I'm sure Ian is a much smarter player than I am and is not going to think to do that. It looks like we're looking at the top cards of our library, and that's it. I think Comedian has just won this match, has won the MLC.
Everyone's
this is incredible.
Rebel was revealing a Diabolic Intent in her hand. Just didn't have the mana to put it together.
Just needed a couple extra mana. What a game. What an incredible game. What an incredible tournament to lead up to all of this. PAKO and Halden coming out with the win. What incredible.
Right. We got to say congratulations to Ian on a game well played, but a league well played. Also, congratulations to Sikiera, Hire, and Rebel for getting to this spot. It's been very, very hard fought over the past, I don't know how many weeks it's been, but many. So this is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think now we are going to be throwing things back over to the desk. Alan is going to take us home here just to give us a little wrap up of an incredible finals day.
Yeah. What's up? We're back.
What's going on?
That was a crazy match. That was awesome to see. And great to see Ian take it home as well. That was just absolutely nuts, super tense, just like all the other games have been. And I'm just super glad to see it. So
Underworld
we're waiting.
Breach, what a card.
Yeah, it's always crazy to see those breach lines come through. It's just such a strong card, and once it's out there, once it hits, it's so hard to stop, so hard to deal with. So that was absolutely wild.
Right. And there were a lot of kind of pivot points that happened in that game where it looked like, Rebel might just have it, and there was a lot of unconventional decision making that people had to make just because a lot of the lines that people were representing are maybe not the lines that people see the most often. I mean, Underworld Breach, sure, you see that all the time, but the the other, Hulk lines, those have kind of largely fallen out of favor. And, the stuff that's happening with Selvala and with Animar, those are, I would say, less trod than most of the other stuff that people are used to seeing. So this really forced people to kind of think outside the box and evaluating the threats and choosing what things were going to put them ahead and give them advantage.
I mean, it's part of why this tournament had so much draw to it from the beginning. Is you're seeing, I mean, this deck list database is a pillar in the community. It is definitely like a space that we all look to, but you don't see these decks in your normal pods. You don't see these decks in your home meta. You don't see these decks getting a chance to shine all the time. So seeing them all getting a chance to slam into each other was definitely a true treat. Like you don't see these decks getting chosen, especially in a tournament setting. And I think that's what the draft aspect added to it. It was truly a joy to see.
And hopefully something that people will take from that is that you can still have exciting competitive games with maybe some of the more dark horse lists that people haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to, especially given the four lists that made it to the final table in this league. I mean, it should demonstrate to people that there's more than Adnos. There's more than the huddle of 4 or 5 decks that most of the people are putting all of their attention on. So I think this is great for giving some additional focus to the wider meta and maybe what the experience that people can have could actually be, rather than maybe the more saturated metas that we see on things like Spell Table and Cockatrice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a joy to see for sure. So we've thank you, by the way. You guys did an excellent job casting that. It's always a blast to see the energy you all put into it and the true knowledge base that you all have of the meta. So that was an absolute pleasure to watch. Thank you so much for doing such an amazing job. I really appreciate it. It's always good to see you guys put in work.
Always glad to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
My pleasure. So it looks like we've got Ian live in the chat right now, and I'm gonna do a little bit of the old winners talk with him. Are you got your mic up? You ready to schmooze right now?
Schmoozing indeed. Yeah, let's go for it. What's
up? Well, thank you. Congratulations. First and foremost, congratulations. That was a hard-fought win. There was a lot of wild predictions about how PAKO would fare in such a creature-heavy pod. There was a lot of crazy. It was really awesome to talk about this match coming up with the analysts and kind of think about things because I said earlier in the afternoon, I'm not one to look at numbers and go deep into strategy. I'm more of a kind of run at things with a hammer type. So it's really been a pleasure to kind of look at this from such a deep analytical perspective. And something that I really enjoy seeing. And I know it's drawn a lot of people to the MLC, and it's drawn out a lot of really incredible players. So I've got a nice list of questions here that I'm going to run through.
Let's go for it. Yeah.
So first and foremost, I mean, I watched the game, but from where you were at, how was the game? What how did that go?
Stressful. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm absolutely. I mean, I was stressed. There were 3 games today that were all not short games, and it was stressful watching them for sure. But it's part of the joy of it, that super big rush. It's something that I talked with Shaper about, the huge joy of that rush. Can I get it? Can I piece together the thing? So sorry to cut you off there. So how was it?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Let us know all about it.
So one, to have this culmination of now, I believe, 13 weeks of play and like this feels really good. I have a habit of top 4ing things and not getting the finals and clinching the victory. So this is my first like real big W, and that feels pretty great. But as far as like in the game, it's seeing the pod composition as I was driving back from a social engagement earlier, and I was like, oh man, I'm not going to get a single card off of PAKO or Halden from these players. That was definitely tough. But PAKO and Halden this entire tournament has felt very, very good. Like I felt very confident with the deck in my hands, and it has just continued to be consistent. The deck, if you mulligan correctly, which correctly with this deck tends to, for me at least, translate to aggressively. I've kept in practice hands like 3 card hands that just happen to play a turn 2 PAKO and can get a turn 3 Halden, or sorry, turn 2 PAKO, turn 3 Halden. And those are like keepable in this deck. So the fact that you can like consistently be threatening your opponents that early with this deck made me feel really confident to pick it today. And as I mentioned, the pod composition was definitely a little terrifying. And having to leave it up to a 50-50 gamble there at the end to clinch it was obviously a lot.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm going to ask about. So
Yeah.
Clearly, so I've got a question here, and it's amazing. It says, did your deck do what you wanted? And on the surface level, the answer is yes, right? Because you walked away with the fat dub, there, right? So, like, yes, your deck did what you wanted. It won. But mechanically, strategy-wise, did your deck do what you wanted?
So, kind of funny, so during the draft part of the MLC, if you drafted a deck that was untouched within the last 3 months, you got to make any number of edits to it. Except for you had to keep... Yes, any number of edits, except for the idea of the deck had to stay the same, right? The win con basically had to be consistent. And my big addition to the deck was I took out the wheels package because I said Hull Breacher is super toxic to be playing wheels into this, and your commander is basically a card advantage engine. There's no, I don't know why you want to play wheels in here. But the other addition was adding the full breach package in this deck because the stock list is not actually on LED Brain Freeze. And to have that be the winning piece in this game, that was pretty cool to have that sort of validation right there at the end. It was like, I don't need to only win with my commander. I can have this alternate out to really just clinch the victory when my engine isn't quite ready to go.
Yeah, it was really cool to see it just kind of go off. I mean, I was talking about it with Cobble a little bit as well. That Breach is just a crazy powerful thing to have go live. You know, it's such a strong combo, such a strong strategy, and once it gets going, it's so hard to deal with. So in like the games that I'm used to playing, I run still, and it's definitely something that gets laughed at. But I keep a Frozen Grip in Marin for sure, because she gets out there, and you know Marin's a little slower. It goes a little longer, so I can sometimes have the mana for it. The Breach gets out there, and somebody says, "Okay, I cast whatever the hell it is from the graveyard." All right, in response, Corrosion Grip. You know, but that once that Breach is out there, if somebody has a stacked yard, there's nothing you can do about.
Oh God, no.
Okay, cool. You want to do anything to interrupt me? Free and out of the graveyard. You know, days. So that being said, with talk of stoppages, with talk of like how the game played out, what were the politics like at the table? Was it like strong assessment, or were there like what would you say the politics were like at that table? How did that go?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, before we get into anything about this table, I was so lucky to play this finals pod with 3 of my favorite people in this entire community. Hire and I became good friends when I started playing on the Nexus a ton. Like Hire and I have spent so many hours, and I've been kind of off doing my own thing lately. So it's awesome to be able to get to play with him. Rebel is a fantastic creator. We have this back and forth going for this whole time of who is going to take the Eastern Division. And as soon as I took it at the very end, the first thing I messaged Rebel was, "I will see you in the finals."
Yeah,
I was like, Rebel is a fantastic player, and I was like, "There's no way you're not taking your pot. I will see you in the finals. I can't wait." And then Cicada is someone that I've worked with a good amount. We actually had a video series that never made it to the channel because I was waiting for stuff to happen. But someone I've kind of met through just like asking to collaborate one time, and then we kind of realized that we just sort of think the same, and it's just like we shoot the shit all the time. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can say that on the stream.
You get one. You get one.
Okay,
That's
my
good.
bad. So to be playing with these three people who I know pretty decently was obviously a good experience, and we were obviously very comfortable with each other. We were joking probably more than we were actually talking seriously during that whole pod. But as far as
that's the dream. That's the absolute dream,
Yeah.
is to sit down at the highest level of play, but to be sitting down amongst peers. To be sitting down amongst, and not just peers, not just equals, but people who you have a good rapport with. We play this game for fun. Sheldon said it in the interview, you know, like, I just want everybody to be having fun. And to see that note get hit, even, you know, and I'm sure there were stressful parts of it, you know, like that's part of high level play, but to have that offset by being able to play with people you're comfortable with and to do something that you're going to get enjoyment out of makes all of it worthwhile. So that's so good to hear that it was amongst people who you had such a positive rapport and positive experience with.
Yeah, and as far as threat evaluation, it's a tough game in that circumstance, right? Because PAKO and Halden aren't giving me as much value as they would in a normal pod, but they're just as scary looking as they would be in a normal pod. I called out midway through the game there. The turn right before I went off, Rebel had not played the Viscera Seer that she tutored. And had she done that, we would have lost the turn before I went off there. Because there was exactly enough mana to use survival, grab Arena Rector, and then sacrifice the board to basically get the Protean Hulk thing going on. And that was just so close to happening, and Rebel played it safe, and because of that, tried to Pyroblast Halden, basically throw me on the back foot there, and because of that one single mana, was able to get there. But the entire time, I was like, yeah, I know it looked kind of scary, and it obviously ended up getting there off that gamble, but like, I was like, Rebel's about to pop off any second now. Like, we cannot underestimate. Yeah.
That's always the way of it, you know. Like, every single play is gonna make or break the game. That's just, I mean, I cannot stress that enough. We all know what that is. It's literally living on every single play. And whether or not you interact with one person on one side or another person on the other side is going to be the entirety of what makes that game come together.
I mean, right from turn one, we saw my my Nature's Claim my Utopia Sprawl get blown up by the Nature's Claim from higher, right? So like, we were popping off pretty early to keep keep the deck down.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have to wrap it up, but I did want to talk about some notable moments in the game. Walk me through where your head was at with that gamble.
So my hand was Sylvan Library, right? I knew I had to take turns here. I knew that the breach line would get me the win, and the gamble, although the result was that it was hit or lose or win the game, right? Or like lose this gamble flip or win the game right now. But the other card in my hand was a Sylvan Library. I knew that I wasn't gassing up my hand anytime soon unless I went for the Momentous Fall play, but that play has a lot of downside in the fact that I have to get rid of PAKO. Like, yeah, I can draw like 18 cards, but unless I get specifically the breach line right there, right then, I could be in a lot of trouble. So it was pretty free, and obviously I couldn't go from Momentous Fall because the whole breacher had resolved at that point, right? So I basically, the gamble was just a free, hey, if this works, I win the game button. And that was about it. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, I've definitely been there before in tighter circumstances with that 50-50 gamble, and I've definitely hit a dub off of it. So that's an awesome feeling to have. And to kind of, and you top deck the gamble, correct?
No, the gamble had been in my PAKO exile for...
Oh, in the PAKO exile. Okay.
That was the first card I ever flipped over. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So then there you go. Yeah, that's an awesome... That's a hell of a chance to take, and it definitely paid off. So congratulations on your win. Congratulations on, winning the MLC tournament.
Thank you so much.
Amazing job. And we'll look forward to the obvious YouTube recap you're going to do with the crazy name. Those are
Probably.
absolutely a blast to watch. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Peace.
We're going to go